Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is making waves following an interview she gave earlier this month. She was speaking with Breitbart News, a right-wing U.S. media company, and said that the Conservative Party of Canada was far ahead of the governing Liberal Party before the trade war. But the threat of unjust and unfair tariffs had boosted Liberal support. Here's part of what Alberta's Premier said.
That's what I fear, is that the longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now. So I would hope that we could put things on pause, is what I've told administration officials. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election.
So let's get some more analysis on Premier Smith's comments. We're joined by Laurie Williams. She is a political analyst and a professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary. Laurie, always good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Great to see you, Andrew.
So you heard the Premier there. What do you make of what she said?
Well, it's quite problematic. It's one thing to say that you have a preference as to who wins an election. It's quite another to suggest that another country alter or adapt its behavior to have an impact on the election in another country. Now, this isn't something she could be charged for or anything of that nature, but it really calls into question her judgment and her wisdom with respect to her alliance, actually, or association, or closer association with some U.S. parties than with folks here in Canada.
And Laurie, we should say that the Chief Electoral Officer, Stéphane Perreault, was asked about this earlier, whether it constituted foreign interference, and he said that it doesn't officially. But just because it doesn't officially, I think what you're saying is that it is inappropriate, it is problematic, as you say?
Very much. And I mean, we've got a surge of Canadian unity going on right now, something that a lot of politicians could benefit from, including Danielle Smith. There's an openness to trade corridors and even pipelines across the country because we're facing this common threat. And if Danielle Smith wants provinces and Indigenous leaders and so forth to cooperate with her on things like pipelines, then it's important that she stand with them on some of these issues as well. There's nothing wrong with standing up, of course, for Alberta or even for the party that you prefer to win in an election. But it's quite another to look like you're aligning with the government that is currently attacking Canada economically.
And just to add to all of this, Laurie, is, we had the U.S. president come out today and say, there may be some tariffs, maybe not all of the tariffs will be on April 2nd. Who knows what will actually happen, but it does kind of add a twist to this, right? Like if there is some softening, if she says she spoke to U.S. administration officials. Now, look, I don't know whether Donald Trump cares or doesn't care about who he wants to win the Canadian election, but it puts a question out there.
Right. I mean, Pierre Poilievre wants to say that he's fighting for Canada against these unjust and unjustified attacks coming from the United States. But there's a perception, as we're seeing in polling, that people think that had he been able to vote in the U.S. election, Pierre Poilievre would have voted for Donald Trump. So Pierre Poilievre is trying to distance himself from Donald Trump and his administration, and particularly these tariff threats, the instability that's being introduced by that, and also the comments about the 51st state. This makes it more difficult for Pierre Poilievre to distance himself from Donald Trump and feeds into concerns or even suspicions on the part of some Canadians as to whether he'll be the best defender for Canada's interests.
What did you make of Pierre Poilievre's response to this interview that we heard from Danielle Smith?
Well, he's clearly just trying to focus on his agenda, and he's saying that he's going to be strong against any U.S. threats, and that the Liberals have been weak or have made Canada weaker and more susceptible to these kinds of threats. And again, that may have some kind of impact on some voters, but for those fluid swing voters who are looking for who's best to deal with the challenges, if this becomes an election primarily about leadership, who has the best vision for the future and the capacity to actually achieve it, who has the gravitas, the credentials and so forth to do that, this is not the sort of thing that helps Pierre Poilievre, and it doesn't help the Conservatives.
Should he have criticized her for saying what she said?
Well, this is a really delicate balance, and it's actually emblematic of the bigger challenge that he faces. On the one hand, he doesn't want to alienate those among his supporters who do have some affinity for or even support for some of the politicians in the United States, some of the policies that are associated with that. I mean, in another comment in that interview, Danielle Smith said that Pierre Poilievre is more in sync with the new direction that the U.S. government is going in. Well, there are some in Pierre Poilievre's base who are sympathetic with some of the things that are coming out of the United States, and there are a great many Canadians who are not, who are standing strong and unified, and angrily so, against what's happening coming out of the United States. And this puts Pierre Poilievre in a difficult position. On the one hand, he wants to keep the folks that he has in his base right now and not have them go to, let's say, the People's Party of Canada. And at the same time, he wants to appeal to more moderate voters. This kind of press, this kind of media attention makes it harder for Pierre Poilievre to appeal to those moderate voters.
Laurie, thank you. That's Laurie Williams of Mount Royal University in Calgary.